Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I'm still somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck and being one life event away from financial crisis. I am still working to change that. Things are headed in the right direction, but at this time, I'm still just barely living within my means and barely getting by paycheck to paycheck. While I am currently setting some money into savings, it's only because at this time I'm adding extra days in my check by using up some of my available PTO, and not because I have been able to reduce my spending to the point where I can start saving. My long-term goal, obviously, maybe not obviously, my long-term goal is to become more financially set. To have less bills going out, to have more money coming in, to have some money set up into savings. That's the long-term goal, but that seems like a fantasy at this point in time. We're not there yet, but that's where we're building. Today, I'm going to go over my March monthly budget estimate. We're going to go over both the monthly budget and paycheck number 1 and paycheck number 2 that fall within that. I have changed how I'm doing my videos, and I'm putting all of that into one instead of doing each part as its own separate short video, because that's what makes sense to me. That's how I do it when I'm sitting at my table planning out what's coming. I do it all at once because each half impacts the whole. So that's where we're at today. So for me, I set up my month. My rent is always due on the 1st of the month, and I get paid every other Friday. So I have to have my first paycheck of the month be whichever paycheck the first falls in. So for me, this month of March starts February 23rd and goes until March 21st. And that's because, as you see here, the 1st of March is within that first paycheck. If I waited till the first one that was actually March, my rent would be late and I would already be setting myself up for failure. Maybe at some point in time I will have 1 month of rent set ahead, but I don't think that that's going to happen. If ever I were able to do that, then I might have my months just run from the 1st to the 30th, and wherever the paychecks fall is fine, but I'm not there yet, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So first I'm going to fill in the calendar for what bills I have due when, and then we're going to go and see where that falls on the actual estimates. So I don't have anything due in paycheck number 1 until the 1st, which is my rent, which was increased by $25 this month. So it had been $853. It is now $878. My rent is now $875, and I still have a $3 servicing fee for the company that pulls that out and pays that for me. Then last month, I finally was able to get the deposit towards my utilities. And if you saw that video, you know that I have to pay my utilities on time for 10 months, and then I would get my deposit back. And I was informed that I need to make that payment at least 2 days before the due date in order for that to have processing time. So I have since received my first utility bill. My utilities are due on the 11th. In order to get that paid at least 2 days in advance, I need to pay that when I get paid on the 8th. My utilities will be due on this day. And I have estimated that that will be $225. Also, I had a $931 hospital bill that I had put in payment arrangements, and I finally have the arrangements for that. That is due on the 8th for $38.80. Then on the 9th, I have a student loan payment that's due at $69.74. On the 16th, I have my subscription. This should be the last month that this subscription is due, and that's $10.82. Then on the 17th, my phone bill is due. And my phone bill is ridiculously high at $194.49. And then I will be paying my taxes at some point during this, my federal taxes. I will owe $53 on my federal taxes, and I will be paying that during this second paycheck. And so I'm just going to write that right at the end of the pay period, although in all actuality that will probably get paid up there. So that is all of my bills that are due. I do have 3 different doctor's appointments during this month, and those have $25 co-pays. I'm not going to write those dates down on here, except that 2, I will tell you that 2 are in paycheck number 1 and 1 is in paycheck number 2, and so those will show up in the estimate, but just for whatever weird privacy issues, I'm just not putting that down there. I do have some health issues that I'm working through right now, and they were part of the reason why I had such a long absence previously. We're still working through what all of those issues are. So as we move through March, more doctor's appointments may come up with more co-pays, and definitely I will begin getting my bills from when those, from all of the previous stuff I've had done. So some of that is going to show up in here. And let me just double check that I don't have anything else in here that I have forgotten about, because last month I did. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the book around and then make sure I'm still within camera view. And then we're going to look at what my March, the whole monthly budget setup as a whole is. When I set up my income, I take my hourly wage times the estimated hours per week times the amount of week in the pay period we're talking about, and I take out 25% for taxes and insurance. So this is $20.85 an hour times 38 hours times 4 weeks in my month, take away 25%, and what I'm given is $2,376.90. Now this month, sometime during this month, I should be getting back the $35 that I had to give to the toll roads when I paid that off 6 months ago or whatever that was. This should be showing up sometime during this month, but I don't know exactly when. And in all honesty, because my months are not 1st to the 30th, this may potentially show up in what I consider to be my April budget. But that has been estimated at $35 for this pay period, which means my income is estimated to be $2,411.90 for my month of March. My fixed expenses are all of my bills, and we just went over several of them, so let's carry this down and see what that looks like. I have my rent at $878, my utilities at an estimated $225, my phone at $149.49, my student loans at $69.74. I have a subscription for $10.82. I have 3 different co-pays for my doctors for a total of $75. I have the hospital bill that has been put in payment arrangements for $38.30. I have my federal taxes at $53, and I have this other in case something comes up that I hadn't planned for, which means my fixed expenses, I am estimating to spend $1,496.35 in bills this month. Really quick, I want to address 2 things that are happening here. In my phone bill, I may end up paying more towards my phone bill. One of my phones has begun to have battery issues, and rather than getting a new phone on a new 24-month payment plan, that phone, that was my son's phone, and he has set up his own phone bill under his own phone name, and he is now removed off of my phone. So I will likely be paying the entire amount that's left due on that line and taking that line off of my bill, and hopefully that will reduce my bill going forward. But I don't know for certain if I will have that to do this month. So that phone bill could potentially be more at the end of the month because I'm paying off a phone bill, paying off what's left on, the credit on that. which would hopefully then mean next month my phone bill would be less, but we'll see with that. And then the other thing I wanted to address was this doctor at $75 again. Other things are going to come up for that. There should definitely start being some bills filtering in, so that could go up or down based on some of that. The next thing I go into is my flexible spending, which for me is groceries, dining out, transportation, art, and miscellaneous. Those are the areas where I have the greatest control over my budget, and I have the greatest potential to screw up my budget in here. So I have to be very careful of this. So my groceries for the month, I have estimated $660. Dining out, I'm not giving myself anything in the estimate for dining out, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to attempt another 8 or 9 week stretch of no dining out. It was very difficult previously. We'll see if I can make it through. Transportation, $80. Basically one full fill up per paycheck. Art, I've given myself $30. Miscellaneous, I've given myself $30 for a total flexible spending estimate of $800 for the month. And then as we look at my ending balance, my income is estimated to be $2,411.90. My fixed expenses for the month, $1,496.35. And my flexible spending at $800, which, if things go completely smooth, would actually have me having $115.55 at the end of the month that I could then put in towards savings. I would love for that to be the case. I would really love for that to be the case. But with what may happen with the phone and what is likely to happen with doctor's bills, I don't know how that's going to go. So that's my monthly estimate. And then we're going to go flip over here and see what paycheck number 1 looks like. So I've done the whole month, but how much do I have immediately right now? So for my first paycheck, my wages again, $20.85 an hour times 38 hours times 2 weeks in my paycheck, take away 25%, is $1,188.45. In my other, I do not have anything estimated for this pay period. I don't expect I would receive that $35 this early in the month, because half of this paycheck is still February and it wouldn't begin to be due then. So my income for paycheck number 1 is $1,188.45. My fixed expenses for this pay period, I have my rent, and I have 2 of those doctor's visits. So rent is $878. Doctor's visits, copays estimated to be $50. And then I have nothing in other. Again, I do have that line item to hold me over in case something comes up. I have a place to put that. So my fixed expenses are estimated to be $928. Flexible spending, again, groceries, dining out, transportation, art, and miscellaneous. In this pay period, I'm estimating I'm going to spend about $310 in groceries. It's going to be a very, very tight pay period for me with groceries. But I think I can get through with the buffer that we had in the dry goods and the freezer prior to this pay period. Dining out, nothing in the estimate. Transportation, 1 fill up at $40. I am still going off of my initial estimate way back in May when I set up my estimate. At that time, gas was $3.79 a gallon. My gas tank holds just over 10 gallons. So a 1 full fill up would be, $37.90 plus a little bit extra. So $40. Gas prices obviously have fluctuated up and down in that length of time. And I'm not changing my estimate paycheck to paycheck, week after week, because honestly, if I set my estimate at the beginning of the month, by the end of the month, it's going to be different anyway. Art, nothing this pay period. Miscellaneous, nothing this pay period. The pay period where I pay my rent is an extremely tight pay period. I generally only have enough money to pay my rent and get the bare basics. So I don't have anything to give to that category this pay period. That's $350 to flexible spending this pay period. Which then, let's go over the ending balance for this. $1,188.45 for income, $928 for fixed expenses, $350 for flexible spending, has me negative $89.55. I won't be making my account go negative. I have been padding my checks with extra paid time off, and unfortunately that $89.55 is going to have to come from what I'm padding my checks. If I didn't have that as an option for me right now, I would have had to reschedule those 2 appointments. There's no way I would have been able to have 2 different copays during this pay period if I didn't have that buffer that I was building into my paychecks. I'm grateful that I do have that because I want to get these health issues taken care of as quickly as I can. Now let's flip through and see what paycheck number 2 looks like. I did change last week, my last video when we were closing that out, I was discussing changing my weekly check-ins and spending overviews from monthly carryovers to paycheck carryovers, and that is what I have done here. We're going to see how that goes this month, but then we're going to get here to paycheck number 2. That's where we're at today. So let's take a look at what this income estimate was. Again, wages, $20.85 an hour times 38 hours times 2 weeks, take away 25%, leaves me with $1,188.45. No fluctuations there. Other, this is where I have estimated that $35 from getting back money from my toll roads bill, which gives me $1,223.45 in this pay period for income. My fixed expenses is everything except for the rent. So my utilities at an estimated $225, my phone bill and an estimated $194.49, and my student loan at $69.74. My last subscription payment for $10.82, just $25 in a copay on this pay period. That hospital bill at $38.30, my federal taxes at $53, and a line for other with a zero estimate in there, a space holder just in case. Gives me a total of $568.35 in fixed expenses for this pay period. I find it interesting that I have, does that sound right? I have nearly $200 in my phone bill and $200 in my utilities bill. That's $400. The rest of this is just barely $160. I guess so. I find it interesting that I have this many bills and it's less than what I have for my fixed expenses on the other side when I've got just a little bit. It is what it is. I'm not the only one who has the situation. The cost of living to keep a roof over our head is ridiculous. Flexible spending, again, groceries, dining out, transportation, art. Groceries, I've given myself $350 for this pay period. Dining out, still nothing. I have high hopes for this dining out category for myself. Transportation, $40. Art, I've given myself $30. And miscellaneous, I've given myself $30 in this category. Last month, I also gave myself $30 in each of these, and I chose not to spend it because I had spent it other areas and I didn't want to go over, I didn't want to go in the red. So this got filtered to other things. So hopefully I get to spend it because I have things I'm wanting to buy. Total of $450 in my flexible spending category. So what does that do for us at the end of the pay period? My income is $1,223.45. My fixed expenses $568.35. Flexible spending $450. Leaving me with $205.10 left at the end of this pay period to add into my savings. That would be absolutely amazing. This is the pay period where my phone bill could be higher, and this is the pay period where if I have any bills come out, if I receive any more doctor's bills where my copays need to be paid, this is the pay period where that would happen. But this $205.10 estimate, this does not include any of the extra I'm padding my check. This is finally getting my fixed expenses low enough that my rent or that my income can actually cover it and get me some savings. We'll see how that carries over by the time we close out the month, by the time we close out paycheck number 2. But man, oh man, oh man, does that look fantastic out on paper. So fingers crossed for things to go smoothly this pay period. And then just a real quick, as we carry over, this is my weekly spending overview for paycheck number 2, so that I can separate that and have that portion not be monthly, because like I said, it was really messing with my head mathing that. Then my debts and desires, and then I'm done with this book. So I need to get a new book by the time we close out my March month. I did go searching for a new book. I went to several places, and it was very difficult to find what I wanted and needed. This book has 2 columns, and I need something that has 3. I began that battle very early on in this book. So I was looking for something that had 3 columns for me. I went to, like I said, 3 separate stores, finally ended up back at the store where I originally purchased this one. And I actually did purchase the exact same one like this, because obviously I made it work. I can make it work again for another year. But then immediately after purchasing it, I went into the car before I even left the parking lot, and I looked at this cover, and I found the name of this book, and I went online to see if I could find a 3-column book, and they do have one. And that's one of the things I want to order in my miscellaneous in paycheck number 2, because I really do want a 3-column book. And so we'll see if I can get that, how much that's going to cost by the time shipping is done, and start off next month with that. We'll see how that goes. So that is all that I have for you for today's video. Just setting up my estimate for the month of March, which again for me is February 23rd to March 21st. I have not been doing any kind of craft at the back end of my video, and that is because I'm still working on those storage boxes. Things are moving very slowly. Once again, I have no pattern I'm going by. I'm prototyping, and each one I do a little bit differently because there's kinks that need to be worked out. Those don't film particularly well because of how big and bulky they are, and because of how my camera setup is in this particular area. And there's not a lot of change from, visually from one week to the next. So we'll go over that, or we won't, as that begins to finalize itself. So that is where I'm at. That is what's going on. And I thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to join me in this journey. Wherever you are today, whatever you're doing, have fun. Bye-bye now.